Good morning. It's a wonderful Wednesday.
Wonderful. And of course, how you doing out in the world?
Share with the public issues of the National Insurance Board, which we find very important to share with our Bahamian public today.
Okay, we're going to get right into it because, we want to make sure that we're on time today and we're doing all the right stuff that we're supposed to be doing. Because I see here we have in the house today, Radina Baisden. And of course, when she's in the house, we have to be on time. We got to be preppy and make sure that we got everything right. That kind of stuff today. Anyway, we want to welcome you all this morning here on the NIB project because we've been talking a whole lot about all the things that have been happening with the history of NIB. But today we're switching some things around because we want to talk about compliance. Compliance is a very, very big thing here in the Bahamas these days. On this 20th day of November, we're talking compliance here. So you can call the radio show if you want to today and ask your question or two about compliance in NIB. And the telephone numbers today, 376-9234. That's 376-9234. And, of course, you can also get me on 821-9234. So let's talk today with our good friends here from NIB, Indira Kinlock Archer. And we're going to say hello to her today because she's been good. She's always been good. She's been around NIB for some time now. And she means well. And she wants to make sure that you feel comfortable with her today because she's talking about something that a lot of people don't really like to talk about, but we have to talk about it because
Indeed.
it is a very important thing.
Absolutely, yes. Firstly, I want to say that the National Insurance Board is made possible by the National Insurance Act, which was enacted in 1972.
Absolutely.
It's the statute law 350 of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And the National Insurance Board, we're really going to zone into today the compliance department. And the compliance and inspector department is a very important, critical component of the National Insurance Board. And we are the enforcement arm. We are the revenue earning arm of the National
That's
Insurance
right.
Board. And we all would like to state that one of the most important feature of the National Insurance Board is to provide income replacement. For example, in terms of maternity benefit, when someone is incapable of working due to illness, sickness, disability,
Yes.
job injury. But in order for us to pay you, we need business owners
To pay up.
us. And
You need business owners to pay up so they
Yes.
can pay us.
so
money.
that is the
Absolutely.
function of the compliance
question.
inspector department. Our function is to ensure that contribution income is paid and paid in a timely manner.
Okay. So that's one of the things that you have the responsibility for. And,
Yes.
of course, you've got a group of inspectorates and the rest of that
And
making sure that
Right.
you are paying up on time, you are paying up when you're supposed to pay up. And I suppose there'll be some times when there'll be people who are not ready to pay up at that particular time when it's really due, but they have a little period that they can catch up and do it.
Absolutely. We have grace periods
Okay.
that we
Fantastic.
do allow our employers or our business owners to come and pay.
Okay. Well, let's talk some more about this whole matter at NIB. And, of course, Mrs. Archer just finished telling us about the compliance and inspector department at NIB. But there's some other things that we need to know about the role of the inspector at NIB. So let's talk a little bit about that first, so we get clean the air and this whole thing about what's to be expected of the inspectors
Okay.
and when they go and meet the clients of NIB.
Okay, for example, before I speak on the inspector, we have our Department of Immigration. The enforcer there is the immigration officer.
Okay.
We have the Royal Bahamas Police Force. The enforcer there, of course, is a police officer. Within the National Insurance Board, the enforcer is our inspector. And with our act, there are actually 5 positions that are empowered within our act. That is the director, the actuary, the
Yes.
legal officer, the medical officer, and of course, the inspector. The inspector has some serious powers. They have the power to enter your business establishment with or without your approval. They have the power to examine your payroll record.
All statutory. This is the power.
Exactly. This inspector is a very, very powerful officer.
Okay.
Yes, at the board. Also, we want person to realize that the inspector is not only an enforcer. The inspector comes with wealth of information. So if you need to know how to pay your contribution benefits, the best options for you as an employer, the inspector is also there to help you.
Okay. Okay. So when you're looking at these inspectors, this is like straight across the board with most of them, right? All of the inspectors are, in fact, ready to tell people exactly what they need to know and how they can pay their contributions.
Yes, indeed. Our inspectors are walking communication officers.
Okay.
That's what they are. They're well versed in our benefits, our assistances, and also we want to ensure that the ease of doing business. So the inspector can tell you, for example, if you live on the family island, the inspector can tell you that, hey, you can pay online. So the inspector is equipped with the information that you need to ensure that you are compliant with the National Insurance Act.
Understood. Now, tell me about the current standing of employers and the self-employed persons that are currently registered with NIB at this particular time. I know that you perhaps have some numbers on the top so that we can just say that at this particular point in time before we bring our Mrs. Deveaux in to tell us more about the of importance of people business owners paying their insurance on time and that kind of stuff.
Our self-employed persons, the current compliance rate is at a mere 45%.
A mere 45%?
Yes, only 45% of the entire registered self-employed persons are 45%.
That's not good, eh?
No, that is not good.
So how are you going to improve that?
We're going to improve it by having enforcement measures. And another initiative that we have that's going to commence early 2025 is Meet Your Inspectors, when we actually send invitations out to our self-employers, to our private employers.
You want to like marry the inspector with the people.
Exactly.
So that we can understand who they are.
Right.
And they understand who we are.
Right.
And together we can work it out.
We want to form a beautiful relationship.
Understood.
We want persons to know that we're not only here just to say, hey, bring us the money, pay what you owe. We want to form a beautiful relationship. For example, we want to tell our self-employed persons, for example, the bus driver, the jitney driver, we want to tell you that this here is securing your future when you pay this, when you reach...
I mean, they know that, but I mean, for some reason, we're still not paying, and I'm surprised it's only about 45%, you're saying. I'm thinking that we have so many people in the Bahamas right now who are self-employed and they're working for themselves, but do they pay what they're supposed to pay as far as the compliance officers are concerned, as far as making sure that they are going to be straight at the end of the day? Because once you come to collect, you want your money, you want to get something to take home when you retire and that kind of stuff. But here it is. I'm surprised it's only 45%. Now, I believe that you're going to have to do a whole lot of improvement to make sure that those numbers are going to grow by leaps and bounds, man.
And that's one of the reasons we're here, and we launch a public relations campaign leading up to early 2025. Honestly, I believe that our self-employed employers do not know the benefits. I believe persons realize the benefits of paying into the fund.
Yes.
They will be more quick to buy in. They need to know that what is in it for me.
So how are you going to get them to know more about, from the public relations point of view, how are you going to get them to know more about how they ought to be paying and what they ought to be doing at this stage of the game now in their lives? Because really, they're going to need the money at the end of the day. We know that.
Yes.
And you can't have people just around the place just hustling because, they didn't pay what they were supposed to have paid. You got to emphasize this whole thing about the business people really making sure that they're paying, and you've got to do a serious campaign to make sure they're going to be paying that.
Yes, we're going to do email blasts. We're
Very good.
going to do, if we need to, we're going to do SMS blasts. If we need to, we're going to hold town hall meetings.
Yes.
We're going to go to the community. We're going to inform the community. We're going to use television. We're going to use television, local periodicals. We're going to do anything and everything necessary.
Very good. And we'll see those numbers drive up.
It is our hope.
Very important. I was talking with the director of NIB the other day, and she was telling me about this whole thing about the whole matter of what was it called now? The actuary reports, looking at they doing another bit of reporting at this particular time in the next couple of months, I think it is. And by that measure, we'll be able to know exactly what we need to be doing to improve NIB at the payment level for us, the people who are going to be paying into this thing. And they talked about some things about various incremental supplements that will happen through the House of Parliament, I suppose, by the ministers responsible for NIB to make sure that there's a whole lot of upward movement toward more increases along the ways of NIB. Now, I know that I'm saying that to you because people need to know that this is something that's going to happen eventually. And if that's going to happen eventually, if that's going to happen eventually, it means then that we got to be on the mark to make sure that we're able to pay and what those prices may be. Now, we don't know, we don't want to preempt anything and say this is what the price is going to be, but I'm just saying they need to be aware of that. And of course, you all need to be so aware of that to make sure that when you do this thing, it will be hand in hand with what you're trying to get done for the business people to make sure they're paying more monies into NIB. I know you wanted to say something, Regina.
Right. So to that end, if I may interject, we did put out, I think it's an RFP or an invitation for persons to bid to do the next actuarial review for us. So that's a process that's going to happen. Pending the outcome of that actuarial review, along with consultation with the government, ILO, et cetera, we will know what the next step should be. Now, there are several reforms that have been suggested to make sure that we shore up our fund, the NIB fund. We need to see what the result is after the rate increase we just had in July.
Yes.
We need to see what the studies recommend and suggest. You know, there are trends that you have to look at, et cetera.
I understand that.
And then we will know what the next step will be.
No,
Could
so
that be a further increase? It
Yeah.
could be. Could it be a reduction in the benefits package that we provide? It could be. We just don't know what that's going to look like right now.
Yeah, I
But
understand
we do
that.
know that whatever has to happen is going to happen because NIB cannot fail and it won't fail.
Yeah, we support that. But NIB cannot fail. We won't allow it to fail, and we've got to put our hands in the pocket in a way to make sure it doesn't fail, and be sure about what we are dealing with. And that's the only reason why I just mentioned that whole thing, just on the surface, without getting into the details, because I know you have not been ready yet. But the point is to make sure that people know that this is on the way. You got to understand that we are together on this whole matter because we all want to see NIB fund grow, and not only that, we want to have that payout at the end of the day, and that's what is important. Go ahead, Mrs. Deveaux, if you can, talk to me about the whole matter about what's happening with the importance of self-employed persons and business owners maintaining timely payments all the time.
Okay, so yes, it is important for our self-employed persons and our business owners to maintain timely payments. Not only do the timely and accurate payments of contributions allow NIB now to pay benefits and assistance we are mandated to do, it's actually really benefits the employers and the self-employed persons directly. And that's something that we really want to emphasize. So for self-employed persons, it is particularly important to ensure that their contributions remain current not more than 60 days in arrears, because they forfeit their right to and coverage for the industrial benefits that NIB provides. They include free medical care, injury benefits, disablement benefits, and grants, the death benefit, and also the industrial funeral benefit. For both businesses and self-employed persons, they can avoid the additional penalties and interest charged on late payments, which can ultimately affect a business's bottom line. And it allows them to maintain good standing with NIB, therefore, avoiding those potential issues when we're renewing our business licenses and we need permits, etc.
Okay. You are the assistant manager. That's what you talk about. Assistant manager of with responsibility for Family Island Unit. and Family Island inspectors. Tell us what kind of cases the board commonly seek to prosecute people for in these particular items.
Yes. So the Act creates and speaks to several offenses under which prosecution cases can occur. So, for example, a failure to pay contributions when they are due, and that is at the end of the month or by the 15th day grace period. And what this really means is that once a business or self-employed account is registered by the National Insurance Board, unless otherwise formally communicated to us, because we would not know what's going on with your business unless you tell us, all right? Contributions are due at the end of each month. So the system, the National Insurance Board system, expects contributions at the end of each month.
Okay.
If something else is going on with the business, we would not know that. And this is where the relationship with the inspector comes in. You would need to communicate that to us formally for us to know that. But otherwise, there's a 15-day grace period into the following month before interest is assessed and payable. So failure to pay these contributions is indeed an offense. Another offense we speak about is the failure to register a business or as a self-employed person to register. And so the Act states that within 10 days of commencing employment, you are required to register with the National Insurance Board. Failure to do so is considered an offense according to our Act and our regulations. It is also an offense to not produce any reasonable document when an inspector requests it. We consider that a failure to produce offense. And finally, it's also an offense to not to maintain proper records as a business entity. The failure to maintain those records can be actioned legally by our teams. Now, for us, we noted that the role of the inspector is very wide. Therefore, any person who intentionally interferes with the inspector in a way that is designed to delay or prevent him from doing his job is guilty of an offense. Now, we want to note, however, that
very powerful man, you said.
Yes,
The inspector.
right.
Yes.
But we want to stress and we want to advise you that prosecution is never the board's first step.
Understood.
It's always a last resort after many attempts to intervene. Many attempts to intervene have happened.
Yeah.
So this is another reason why we encourage persons to get to know your inspectors, find out their contact information, and have that relationship with them so that they can communicate directly with them and keep updated. And with that, what is happening with their businesses as it relates to compliance. We are here to serve you.
Well, that's very, very good. I mean, it sounds very comprehensive, those rules and regulations and the rest of it. And people need to know that, like they need to know that that's what is going to happen. But you've got to emphasize that even more these days because we're in a time right now in the Bahamas. We're in a time, all of us, we're in a time where it's hard to find monies to do a number of things with. And while this is a very important subject and we must pay, we know that, all of us must pay. The bottom line is that it is just a situation right now where things are not, I said this morning on the radio, right? Things shabby. That's what I'm saying. That's the word that I want to say. Things are shabby, and people may use it as an excuse to say, "Well, I can't pay, man. I got to pay. You have to find this money to pay because you got people employed. You want to take care of them. You want to make sure you're straight on the game, and not only that, you don't want to go to court and have to waste time." Because you could still have to answer and pay the thing anyhow. Understand that. You're still going to have to pay it and answer it anyway.
If you pay late, you assess late interest.
Yeah. And so the people who are making up the compliance in the inspectorate unit, are you the tough guys in the whole business? I mean, making sure that NIB gets what they're supposed to get so that we can get what we get?
I wouldn't say we're the tough persons. I think that we are the enforcement. It's our obligation to ensure that the National Insurance Fund
and we
is
thank
protected.
you. We thank you.
And not only for us, but for generations to come.
Yes.
That is very critical. For example, we pay out approximately $30 million per month in pensions, while we receive approximately $24 million in contribution income. That's a variance of $6 million.
Yes. You got to deal with that.
Yes. Yeah. So we must be a watch guard of some sort to the fund.
So you're going to be putting a lot of emphasis on this thing at
A
this
lot,
particular
a lot of,
time.
and listen, I come with a lot of energy because I'm very new in this role, so I am ready. If you owe us, you're gonna pay. If you don't pay, you will be prosecuted.
Wow.
And it's simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
There is grace, but you must come to us.
Yeah.
You must come to us and we'll work together. There are different options. For example, we have payment plan, what we call our installment agreement.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so we do work with you.
So you work with people.
Yeah, just don't avoid us.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, understood. You hear that?
Yeah.
Everybody's clear on that? Don't avoid them.
Don't avoid
You're going to
them.
have to pay, so start making sure that you're going to be paying
Well,
your
we're going to
funds.
find you.
Yeah. Yeah, she's so serious inside it. You should see her sitting there. She's serious, man. She's scaring me now. I want to teach
I
her.
take this person as a person who loves their country.
No, you're
I
doing
take
the
it
right
deeper
thing.
than that.
You're doing the right
Deeper
thing.
than just an employment opportunity or a role on a job. I'm positioned here at this time to secure our fund, and that's just what I'm going to do. This is a mandate. And all of
Understood.
us, I can speak for the entire compliance department and inspectors, we take it as a mandate.
Yes.
How do you take it, Mrs.
I see it as
Deveaux?
a civic responsibility.
Mhm.
I want to take care of my Bahamian people. I've witnessed and I've experienced at the end of the day persons who have not paid their contributions,
Mhm.
and then when it's time for retirement, one sickness can wipe out whatever savings you thought you had,
That's
and then
right.
they look to us, what can you do for me? And it's heartbreaking to say, you never contributed.
Mhm.
There's only so much we can do. You know, so for me, it's a civic responsibility, and we are very passionate about it.
Let me ask you about this recent raise that we saw happen, the 1.5%. NIB, of course, recently implemented the rate increase on July the 1st, 2024. For our listening audience, though, perhaps you can remind them of what the new contribution rates are for all of the different type of contributors making this particular rate at this particular time. Give us some reminders as to why this thing had to happen, why this is important, and why we may even be getting more along the lines on the rate increases eventually over time.
Well, I'll add to the rate increases first. So for employed persons, the rate increased from 9.8% to 11.3%. The employer's portion increased from 5.9% to 6.5%, while the employee's portion increased from 3.9% to 4.65%. And what that means is if you are making $100 a month, your employer is responsible for paying 6.65%. The employee should be paying 4.65% of that.
Okay.
For self-employed persons, the contribution rate increased from 8.8% to 10.3%. And finally, voluntarily insured persons, the contribution rate increased from 5% to 6.5%.
Okay. All right. Now, of course, Mrs. Archer, you have anything else you want to add to that as we talk a little bit about what's happening here with that increase that we just got in July, and how well is that going at this particular time, and is that really enough monies? I know it isn't enough. Let me just be careful. It's not enough money. I know that. But the point is, people may not know that. They may think that, and they just get a raise last now they want to. You see what I'm saying? I'm just saying to you, how does this happen to be something of very importance, and again, it may happen later on, and how is that whole thing now being seen in the body of NIB per se, as it is right now? That you got that increase, but that really wasn't enough. But we're gonna have to go back at the people again and deal with this whole matter again.
Well, at that level, we're not really discussing it. The rate increase at this time, we are still awaiting the actuarial review, a formal review, before we can make a decision on future rate increases. However, I would like to say, though, many of the employees that I have communicated with on the rate increase stated that they understand, and we didn't receive much opposition from our business community.
Okay. And sorry.
No, the
Just-
persons who I communicated from, I did not receive much opposition from them because most persons, they stated that they understand why it's necessary to increase the rate to secure the fund.
Okay. All right. It's 11:30 right now. Let's run and take a break and pay some bills, and I'll come right back in a minute. Help as we're talking with today on the show, Assistant Director Indira Kinglock Archer and Mrs. Janine Outen Deveaux, the Assistant Manager of NIB and responsible for the Family Island unit of NIB. We're going to run to a break and pay some bills and come back in a minute as we continue to talk here today on NIB.
Yeah, we can't be talking with no break.
Did you know the National Insurance Act provides for an insured pregnant woman to access her maternity benefit before or after delivering her baby? Expecting mothers are entitled to 13 weeks of maternity leave, which can be applied for by completing the Med-2 claim for maternity benefit form. Section A is completed by a registered physician or certified midwife. The medical practitioner certifies the expected or actual confinement period, signs the form, and affixes their official stamp. Forms completed by medical practitioners outside of the Bahamas must be accompanied by the physician's business card. In sections B and C, the claimant provides personal and employment details, declares their last day at work, signs and dates the form. The Med-2 form is always accompanied by Form Med-4 or Employer Certificate, which is completed by the employer. Both the Med 2 and accompanying Med 4 forms must be submitted within 3 months from the first day of confinement. Forms submitted outside of this period are considered late and will be subject to review by the Late Claims Committee. Before submitting forms, check that all fields are accurately completed. Incomplete forms or forms with incorrect information will delay the processing of your benefit application. For more information, visit the NIB website at nib-bahamas.com.
Thanks for the food we eat, the friends we meet, and the specials at Super Value and Quality Supermarkets. Rainbow sliced beets, 15-ounce, $1.29. Whole chicken wings, $1.89 per pound. Fresh limes, 3 for $1. Great American white shrimp meat, 12 ounces, $3.99. Sunny Delight Smooth or Tangy, 64 ounces, 2 for $5. A full variety of Butterball and Jenny-O turkeys, plus regular and picnic hams, are at Super Value and Quality Supermarkets.
There's nothing like Wednesdays at Sandy's Cafe on Blake Road. Move fast and get yours now. This and every Wednesday at Sandy's Cafe: fried shrimp fettuccine, succulent grilled pork chop, baked barbecue chicken, curry chicken, stuffed Cornish hen seasoned to perfection, fish fillet with Sandy's tartar sauce, delicious oxtail just the way you like it, and your soup of the day is turkey vegetable soup with cornbread. Super Wednesday at Sandy's Cafe. Call them at 302-5545. That's 302-5545. They're now open right here in New Providence, Western New Providence. Blake Road is the place. Go to Sandy's today.
The Ministry of Social Services, Information and Broadcasting is partnering with the Bahamas Christian Council to help build stronger Bahamian families.
I believe that our ultimate experience in living begins with God and family.
Our purpose is to facilitate, guide, inspire, and equip you to have a better life.
And a strong family foundation begins with each of us trying to become better individuals. Let's unite
for a stronger Bahamas.
This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Social Services, Information and Broadcasting, the heartbeat of the nation, leading Bahamians from dependency to